Hello, you are tuning into a public meeting for Machine Shop Village for North Andover. I would like to start the meeting reading an order from the Governor of Massachusetts concerning public meetings. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GLC 30A, paragraph 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the North Andover Machine Shop Village is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public are permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by watching on your television on Comcast Channel 99, Verizon Channel 28, or online by visiting www.northandovercam.org. I'd like to start the meeting by taking a roll call of members of the commission. Myself being Harry Asnoyan, and we have Jerry Wilson, and we have Justin LaFawn. And finally, if the public would like to participate in the public hearing, please email your questions or comments to hazanoyan@northandoverma.gov. The questions and comments will be read during the proceedings and responded to accordingly. Okay, I'd like to now look at the agenda. We have an application for certificate to alter for the property located at 125 Water Street. This application will allow for changes to windows, external windows, doors, a chimney and siding, as well as architectural features. Okay, now prior to us discussing this, pursuant of Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GLC 30A, paragraph 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 March 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. The public hearing portion of this meeting of the North Andover Machine Shop Village is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but the public can listen to this meeting while in progress, viewing on air to Comcast 99 or Verizon Channel 28, or online by visiting www.northandovercam.org. Members of the public attending this meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments if they wish to do so during the portion of the hearing designated for public comment by emailing, again, your question or comment prior to or during the meeting to hazanoyan@northandoverma.gov. The questions will be read during the proceedings and responded to accordingly. Okay, that's the housekeeping. Now we can get into the actual agenda application. So Matt, do you want to walk us through the application, or do you, how would you like to for us to take a look at that?
If you'd like me to, I will. I've never done one of these virtual meetings like this before, so okay. However you'd like to proceed is fine with me.
Yeah. So the proposal is in the proposal in the application that we have in front of us is to remove one door. There are a total of 2 windows to be swapped out to smaller windows.
There's actually 4 windows.
Oh, that's right. There are 4 windows. That's right. and removal of the chimney, and vinyl siding to be put on the house.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. So in the share folder, we have a considerable amount of images that you provided us. And I'm going to open it up to the commission to begin questions that they may have concerning the application.
Okay.
We'll start there. So Jerry or Justin, you can start if you'd like.
This is Justin. I guess starting on the front, one of the proposals is to repair or replace some of the rotted trim on the front door. With the front door, having some interesting features, architectural features. I just wanted to get a better understanding of what the plan is for the trim around the front door.
So for those, I meant to mention this. For those following along, listening to the meeting, we will identify in the share drive a particular image or document by its name and what we're looking at. So in this particular case, Justin, I think you're looking at image 13.
Yep, sorry. Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. Yes, image 13, the white trim around the front door.
Okay. So Matt?
Yes.
The question is, as we look at the details of the trim around the front door, what do you have planned for that?
Basically, our plan is to mimic what's there, just out of PVC.
Okay.
Instead of replacing it with wood.
Sure, yeah. That makes sense to me. Okay. Well, I mean, I guess that mostly answers the question. Obviously, if you guys are planning to copy exactly what's there, the material, is not so much the issue as just the design. So that sounds fair.
Right.
This is Jerry Wilson. To follow up on Justin's question, having run into this on other projects, are you going to gauge the profile to try to mimic it exactly? Or are you just going to try to get it as close as possible?
Typically, I just try to get it as close as possible. I'm not much one to typically use off-the-shelf parts, so we do manufacture our items if we need to. If you would like us to gauge it, as a condition to copy it as exactly as we can, I have no problem doing that.
Okay. Did you have any other questions, Justin?
No, I think as far as the front door for now, that pretty much covers my questions for the front door trim.
So if we're looking at this, Matt, the profile of the front door, I mean, this house does have a significant amount of small architectural details that are embedded in the sort of the overall trim of the house, which I wanted to get into some of that with you, and what your thoughts are and how you're approaching that. But if we look even in the center of this door, right, there's a small ornamental block in the fascia of above the door frame, right?
Yeah, the keystone.
Are you planning on duplicating that or of these types of elements, or what is the intent?
Well, I'm currently trying to open the picture while we're talking here, but even though I'm the one that uploaded them, I'm having a little bit of trouble opening it at the moment. But yes, the intent is to mimic what's there, even if it's quite detailed.
Okay. So if I'm hearing you correctly, because, to Jerry's point, if we're gauging and replacing the profiles exactly what's there, then any type of motion we make will include that language.
Right.
So I just want to make sure that that's doable.
Yeah, well, obviously, whatever the language is, we have no problem agreeing to it. The homeowner had some of their own ideas on trim design, but where we decided, or we found out that there was control over this, we understand that in order to move forward and keep the integrity of the look of what's there, if we have to do that, that's not a problem.
Okay. So how, just for my own sort of edification here. So when you're going to box in for putting the siding up, and you have something, that has wraparound molding going around, are you going to cut that out of the siding so that the molding is there, or how does that integration take place, or details like that?
I'm a little bit lost as to what you're asking, because we don't intend to cover the molding with the siding.
No, I'm asking on the cutout. Justin, I'll let you finish answering your questions first, and then I'll go into that more detail. Can you open up the picture, Matt?
Yeah, I have the picture open now.
Okay. So if you look at the right-hand side of the door frame, and you go to the very top, and you've got this, cornice molding that's wrapping around. It's on a 45 there. How do you integrate that 45 of that molding with the siding? What?
Oh, I see what you mean, as opposed to shaving it off flush with the outside of the casing.
Exactly. So you're going to just snip out the siding, maybe?
So if the side, obviously I can't tell how deep it is right now.
I can't either.
How proud it stands off the house, but if it would allow for the siding to go behind it so it would still stay there, that would be optimal. If it doesn't, I'd cut that profile out of the J channel so that it was still there.
Okay. That's what I figured. Okay. Justin? More questions, Justin?
The only other question, my second question was in regards to the freeze board / soffit, those intricate designs, but it sounds like you're just same thing. You're going to be cutting out basically to go around them, each piece as they come. Is that right? So you'll just be cutting out around each of those features. Like, I'm talking more on the right side of the house, up by the soffit. I think they're referred to as freeze boards.
Right.
Which image?
I'm sorry. Yeah, the image is, well, I suppose there's a few. Image 8 and 9 specifically.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, the freeze board, and then there's corbels up there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Correct.
So there's a note in the intentions of what we plan to do that we don't want to cover over the freeze board. So yeah, the intent isn't to mute the detail of what's there.
Right.
It's to keep it there.
Of course.
So the freeze board would still be a freeze board.
Right. And so is there anything that, like, are you going to be wrapping any of that, or is that going to be left alone?
So the intention would be to wrap what we can as to eliminate maintenance in the future.
Sure, of course.
Without taking the detail off. Obviously, the rake boards, as in they do with the windows, when they wrap that, you can't keep the detail of the crown. It basically gets a 45 over it.
Okay, right, yep.
But the freeze board would be intended to wrap, not side over, but wrap to keep it a freeze board.
Okay. And then similarly with the front, you're just cutting around those intricate features.
Right.
Okay. Jerry or Harry, do you have any follow-up questions in regards to that?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay. Another question I had, this is are the homeowners intending to keep the shutters?
We wrote that onto the contract if they want to see how the house looks without the shutters,
Yep.
and then possibly putting shutters back on. Because what happens is, if you look through the photos, you can see that the house actually isn't conducive to shutters on every window because of width between the windows.
Yeah.
So it looks goofy in some places and not, because like right now the attic window on the front doesn't have shutters on it.
Right.
So that's how we left it standing with the homeowner.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't even know that that's a requirement. I was looking at the other houses on the street and not all of them have shutters. So I don't, and obviously I guess we don't even know if they're original to the house. So I'm not really sure where things stand with that, to be honest, but it was a question I had. I was curious.
Okay.
That's a good question.
It is, because there's several windows on the house that don't have shutters.
Right. And again, there's probably 4 or 5 houses as you go down Water Street without shutters at all. So again, I don't know that it's a requirement. I was just curious. I guess, yeah, if it looks better in one way or another, it's more up to the homeowner.
You can actually see in image 12 that the house directly to the left of this one doesn't have shutters on it.
Correct. I think that one does on the front, but not on the sides. But right, as you go down the street, there's at least 4 houses without any shutters. So
right.
Yeah, I don't think it's a requirement. Okay.
Okay, any more questions, Justin?
I mean, that's pretty much what I have for now. What about you guys?
Yeah, I have a few.
Okay.
I do too. But
Okay.
before we leave that, do we want to, request that shutters be on the front? I mean, I having just listened to what you said, at least the street facade, would provide some continuity along Water Street. Besides, as you said, that there's already houses that don't have that. But at least from a front facade perspective. Gary, what do you think? Justin, what do you think?
I'm actually trolling Google Maps right now. I'm trying to
Yeah,
look
I
down.
did that earlier, and I think there's, like I said, 3 or 4 houses just from, that house down to the end of Water at Clarendon without any shutters at all. So, I mean, I don't know if we I just kind of don't know. I mean, I don't know if we need to make it a requirement or not. That's not the right answer, but I'm just not sure. I don't know that there is a right or wrong answer to that.
Yeah, I don't know that there's a right or wrong. It's continuity of the
Yeah.
neighborhood.
I just went down that whole side of the street. There's 2 houses that don't have shutters on them. All the others do.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and I think there's one on the other side.
Yeah, some just on the front, some on front and sides, but yeah, now I'm gonna switch to the other side of the street here. I don't know why I have to do this. I should have it memorized. I'm on that street all the time. So that's first three. 5, 6. Yeah, basically every house on the other side, unless it's changed. I don't know how up to date this Google Maps is. And it could be way out of date. It says it's image capture from 2012, so anything could have changed between then and now.
Yeah, I'd say it's mostly consistent.
So
Yeah,
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with saying shutters on the front of the house, just to keep it consistent with the majority from what it appears anyway.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I found there's one on the other side of the street that's three houses in from the mill that does not. But yeah, otherwise, so it's it's about a 60-40-ish split. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know that there's an answer to that.
I don't know that if their opinion directly matters, but the homeowners are listening. If they could
Okay.
email in your opinion, their opinion to
Yeah,
you
that would
guys,
be great.
that
Yeah.
they know, we know how they feel on the subject.
Yeah, I would like to hear from them. That'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. I'm watching the email, so we'll come back to that. So Jerry, I'm sorry, but for cutting you off, but why don't you start with your questions?
Yeah, no problem. First one is really more of a health and safety issue for the neighborhood. The house is covered with asbestos siding. Is there any plan for removal and abatement?
No.
Second one with the choice of vinyl siding. I'm not a really big fan of vinyl siding. Cementitious siding has come a long way. You're using CertainTeed. They do put out a pretty decent product. Has there been any consideration for that? It's going to be longer lasting, more durable.
So obviously the fiber cement we can't use without stripping the house.
You were just going to encapsulate the existing asbestos?
So the asbestos is over the original clapboards as well.
Right.
So I gave the homeowner an option when they first approached me about siding to have the asbestos remediated.
Yeah.
And it was about a $10,000 job.
Yeah.
So they checked with the town to find out if they could leave it on the house or not, and the town said yes. So they elected to leave it on the house. Personally, I live in a 300-year-old house. I like wood. Half my house is clapboard, half of it's fiber cement. So, but you do what the customer asks you to do when it's allowed.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm not against encapsulation. I was just curious because if it's being stripped off, there's obviously abatement issues that have to be dealt with.
Right.
But that being said, if it is being encapsulated, where are we going to sit with the details around the windows and doors, where now you're adding thickness to this and you're going to lose some of the reveal around the windows and doors with the added thickness?
Correct. And we did lose some of that when the asbestos was put over it. We don't intend to cover the molding that's there or get rid of any of the width with the vinyl siding. So yes, it will make it appear to be sunken into the house, but not by a tremendous amount.
Yeah, it is kind of hard to tell how much is left of the thickness of the windows, but judging by the shutters, you're probably looking at about 3/4 of an inch at least.
Right. Because it does have the band molding around it as well as the 1x.
Yeah. And the siding's typically about 3/8 of an inch.
Right. So the vinyl siding we're using is 5/8, and there's a 3/4 inch J channel trim that goes around the edge of it.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
You still have a tiny bit of reveal left. Okay.
Yeah, and that could actually influence the shutters, I guess, right? Because if you're adding the shutters again back on top of that, maybe it
Then,
might look
yes,
odd in some way.
exactly, Justin. The shutters would then sit proud of the trim.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, that would definitely, that's a consideration the owner should definitely take into when deciding if they're going to put shutters back on or not. Another question I had was, I was looking at the cut sheet for the Harvey windows. It doesn't say what particular model of Harvey window you're using. Although now that I'm zoomed into this image, it doesn't look like the existing sashes are particularly thick. It looks like it's mostly made up of the trim around it.
Correct. The existing windows that are there, what I did is it was quite a while ago when we did it, but when we ran a tape measure across it and measured the glass size per opening size and brought it to Harvey, their classic line is the one that lined up almost exactly with the same amount of exposed glass.
Okay. All right. And if you switch to, let me cancel out of this so I can find the right image. And cancel out of the wrong thing. Okay, so if you go to image 5, where the chimney's being removed.
Image 5. Yes.
And this goes back to the discussion we had about the pediment over the door. There's a significant portion of that cornice and roof that will need to be replaced.
Yep.
Well, not that significant, but you can see what I'm talking about.
Yes.
So that profile will be matched similarly to the pediment.
Yes. You know,
So
that won't be patched in a 16-inch piece. That will probably, you know, remove the length of it and put a continuous pieces in. It'll be seamless when it's done.
Okay, that was my next question. And is there any consideration of re-roofing that roof, or is it just going to be patched roofing?
The roof is in really good shape and not that old. We can still get the color.
Okay.
So the intent would be to weave it in.
Okay. All right. That basically touches on all the questions I had.
Okay. So you're proposing, Matt, on, and let me look at, I'll get a picture. Perhaps we could look at image number 3. And we'll have to zoom that in a little. What you're proposing, 6-inch corner boards, correct?
Yes.
So if we look at the second story, I have 2 questions out of this. You know, one, and it's difficult on the imaging, and maybe you can help us. But the current corner board that's on there seems to be something of, it seems to have a profile. It's not, it's a what, 3/4 round with some sort of profile on it? Some sort of.
It looks like it started life as about a 1.5 by 1.5 that they then milled a 1/4 round on the outside of. It's typical from what I found as a shingle mold that they put on the corner of houses that they cedar shingle when they don't use corner boards. It is applied over the original 1x5 corner boards and clapboards.
Okay. So if we go to the second, where that corner board goes up on the second story, you'll see that sort of the left side of that fascia doesn't seem to be 6 inches. You see where the
Oh, you're talking
downspout is?
about the return on the freeze board
Yeah,
that returns onto the back of the house on the second story?
correct.
Right. It's the facer of it. I believe it's a 1x5. We haven't pulled enough siding off the house or any siding to actually get a exact measurement on if they had a full 1x5 or a 4.5, whatever it is. You know, assuming that that's the number would be whatever the return is up there. What I used for a judgment on the corner was on the driveway side of the house where there's a piece broken out
Yeah.
and we could see the original corner board. And
So
I
in this
measured that to come out to be about 5 inches.
So on this particular detail, right, what would you propose there is what I'm trying to understand. Would you make it 6 inches and then remove part of that top freeze board and then,
So
replicate that freeze board, or are you talking about, matching the current width and then, one side 6 inches, one side 5 inches?
So in vinyl siding in the corner boards that they offer as their product, they're available in 3, 3.25, 6 inches, and I believe 8 inches. So I wasn't going to manufacture corners. That's why the one I specified has a, 5.5 inch or 5.75 inch face on each side of it, and it's filled with styrofoam, so it's rigid. My intention would be if I was to butt to the bottom of that, since we're not going to cover the freeze board, when we wrap the freeze board with aluminum to keep it as a freeze board, I would extend it to line up with the corner board. If it was 1 inch, 3/4 inch, whatever. So it was a continuous line, not a step in it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm just opening up these drawings. And I assume that the same is true. There's like a small bead on the fascia as well on the bottom. That you're likely going to butt up against that.
Are you talking on the freeze board again?
Yeah.
Yeah, it appears that there's a piece of quarter round that they put over the seam of the asbestos siding.
Yep.
Which in my eyes wouldn't have been original anyway, so the intent would be to actually remove that piece of quarter round, so when we wrap it, the J channel would terminate up against the bottom of the freeze board.
Yep. Yep. And how are you going to look, if we look at picture, and this is kind of building off of what Justin had asked, but I'm just still trying to understand. If you look at picture image 8, right, the two windows that kind of look like they're right butt up against the corner.
Right.
How do you channel? How do you kind of meet that in there? Do you cover some of the window?
Correct. So it would basically be an inside corner. So typically on an inside corner, we'd put, a 3/4 inch piece of J channel on each wall. In this case, we wouldn't put one where the window is on the wall that has the windows, but we would put it on the other wall. So it would cover 3/4 of an inch of the white trim as it went down that wall.
Yeah. And it looks like it's hard to tell whether it lost some of its molding to begin with. But the upper one looks pretty good.
If you zoom
Okay.
into that upper one, Harry, it actually looks like that sill and part of the trim on the sides is actually deteriorated.
Yep. Yeah, it's always a challenge when you're putting on, trying to mate an old house with vinyl siding. It's there's no getting around the fact that some of the crispness of the architectural detail will ultimately get blended or faded away.
Right.
And so, I mean, this along with the other similar types of houses along Water Street have, still, I mean, granted, there's been renovations through the years, and some of the details have been modified and changed and swapped out and so forth. But it still does have a fair amount of character to it, and trying to strike the balance for me is critical in terms of how that's done. Okay, I don't think I have any more questions. I do want to read. I did get a response from the homeowners, from Tina and Scott Ramsdell. Their comment was, "Hi, we are listening to the meeting at our home right now, and we would like to have the option of putting shutters on or not, if that's okay with the board. Thank you, Tina and Scott Ramsdell." So that was their comment. Is there any questions about removing the door or the replacement? I know you asked already, Jerry, a question on the Harvey windows, but is there any further discussion on the modifications of the windows and the door?
Yeah, I really don't have a concern with the removal of it. The only thing I wanted to make sure, and that was just surfing through the pictures, was to make sure that they still maintained a second means of egress out of the building for them, which they do have off the.
Yep.
Yeah, I had the same thoughts. Yeah, and it's not a concern for me either.
Okay. So do we have any more discussion on this application, or?
I have no further questions.
Okay. Okay, then we could make a motion or a vote for a certificate to alter. If you'd like, I could try to sort of craft out the motion if you want. But let's say there's a motion for certificate to alter the residence at 125 Water Street. This certificate would include the removal of the side door, replacement of 4 windows per the Harvey specifications, removal of the chimney, a matching of the pediment above the chimney, front shutters to be optional, but a heavy emphasis on trying to keep them in the front facade, and an overall sort of gauge and replace for all of the architectural features around the windows, the door, the freeze board, and the fascia. And finally, the motion will include the 5-inch corner board as applied. So should we take a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll say aye as well. So it's a 3-0 per the outline as we put the motion together. Are there any questions, Matt?
Nope, it sounds reasonable.
Okay, so this meeting will, in essence, be the documentation for our motion and the certificate to alter. The building department will and Bernadette will basically take it from there. But that's all we would have for this particular application. So thank you for that.
Okay.
So we're done with the certificate to alter. So thank you. Finally, on our agenda, we have any miscellaneous correspondence. I don't have any. Justin and Jerry, do you have anything that you would like to bring into the agenda?
No, I don't.
I do not either.
Okay. So now we just need a motion for adjournment. So I'll make a motion to adjourn. Does somebody want to second it?
Seconded.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. Then that concludes the meeting.